Hello everybody, welcome back to another one of this. So yeah, that's got deleted by R-Touch Pokemon, but don't worry about it, I actually don't mind it. I'll tell you why in a second. So, I don't know why I keep finding some interesting ideas to put on r/Pokemon, then making it to a poll. So, again, as I just mentioned, this got removed by r/Pokemon, but not before getting over 6,000 votes, and you can see the bottom left corner. Yeah, this is a lot more than all of the influential series. This is a lot more than the whole physical special split being the best thing happened to Gen 4. Yeah, this got a lot of traction. This has actually been on top of r/Pokemon for a while. But before I get to this question and the results of this, I'm going to show you the source of that question, which is this thread, which was that I did the poll 2 hours after this, which is, what is the most frustrating and angry thing Game Freak has done? Actually, asked OP if I can make this poll 2 hours afterwards. And because it was 2 hours afterwards, this got deleted because of it's just basically being the same thing as this one. That's why this hasn't been deleted, but mine has. Anyway, so let's go begin with what OP of that thread I want to say, because this person didn't like the taking away versus Seeker and the infinite TMs. I don't know why. I'm surprised this person doesn't like infinite TMs, like the TMs being finite. There are a lot of comments in this thread, but when I was making the poll, these were about like a lot less than that. I think it was like 20 or so comments. Now it's over 900. So. And because a lot of those comments were very much similar ideas, I thought I wanted to make it to a poll. So I have not seen the rest of the 900 plus comments on this. And I'm not going to even show them here because there's no point to it. So yeah, I asked OP if I can do this. I did it. And here we go. Which of these the worst things that ever happened to the main series? This is, so the reason I changed the title of it, since what worst thing Game Freak's ever done. Because honestly, I think that the worst things ever happened to Pokemon is not Game Freak's fault exactly. And once you see the results of this poll, they'll actually agree with me. So here's how it does. So you all know about Pokemon. I mean, if you're not, why are you here? But let's just say lately there's some things that went wrong with it, like for example, Scarlet and Violet's many bugs. If you go all the way back to X and Y, when it started, it was a game-breaking glitch. Honestly, there's more also game-breaking, like, absolute nonsense. Lots of removals of really cool things. I want rotation battles back! That was fun! Let me play on that again! Or there's other stuff like, removal of Megas, or removal of Z moves, that sort of thing. Or just making some Pokemon so overpowered that it's just nonsense. But as you can see here, I actually did, while I was talking about this. So, the general options, the general problems, like on the OP back when it had 20-something comments. Again, it's over 900 now. So yeah, a lot of problems were like very similar things. So, if you look at the first three here, were the general comments I've seen out of the, back when I had 20 comments. That is Dexit. For those who don't know what Dexit is, I wish I was you. I think the entire fan base wants to be you if you know what Dexit is. What that is, back when, I think it was an E3 presentation, when someone asked Masuda about, home compatibility for Sword and Shield, back when it was still in development, he was saying that, only Pokemon that are in the Galar Dex are able to be transferred. That set off the absolute cluster F-bomb of, like, absolute nonsense, of, like, absolute rage of the fan base. I made a video on it a long time ago, back when that was new. And I thought, oh, it's probably just going to be a giant Pokédex, giant regional dex. And it was a giant regional dex. And even more with DLC. So, at least I figured that was going to happen. So I just figured that's kind of fine. At least it's easier, just get the full diploma. And the dex itself is going to be huge, and it ended up being so. But other people were pretty mad, so you can't just transfer whatever Pokemon they want into, the newest games, and that still continues to this day. So some people say the Dexit is, for me, I say Dexit is just the one statement from Masuda that set off all the problems. If he didn't say it, and the whole Dexit thing still happened, if there's still removal Pokemon that still happened, it probably would not have been that bad. Or at least as bad as it did. But because he said it early on, then that was a problem. Also, some people say that, Dexit is just the removal of the National Dex. But honestly, the National Dex was removed before Dexit, back in Sun and Moon. So, I don't count that. Or is that, all Pokemon aren't obtainable. I mean, granted, every single game, you can't just catch every single Pokemon. If you look at Gen 3, for example, what I call the original Dexit, because it's a lot of similar ideas, not the same ideas, similar ideas to what Dexit was. You can't get a Pokemon Gen 3 to the point that's actually way more of a challenge going to be the Gen 3 National Dex than anything you see in Pokemon nowadays. And some people just say, it's just the Pokemon aren't coded into the game. That counts every single game that has that Pokemon coded in. But if that was the case, it also happened before Gen 8. It happened with Let's Go. Being granted with Let's Go made sense. And with BDSP, it made sense. And with Arceus, it made sense as well. So really just Sword and Shield, Scarlet Violet right now. Okay. But, now that I talked about the whole what Dexit is, again, I also included into that first one, or other Masuda-related statements. Or issues related to Masuda himself. Because why not? So in the second option is the XP share. Now, a lot of people did not like the fact that Pokemon nowadays, start with Let's Go, Pokemon, every single Pokemon gain experience points, even if they don't enter battle, even if, the player didn't want to, because that was an option before. Now it's not an option. Honestly, I kind of get that. For me, I think that the EXP, the forced EXP share was kind of not good in Let's Go. However, it was balanced in Sword and Shield until Candies came along and ruined it. I feel like nowadays, the EXP share is fine, but that's because of the game's basically being balanced around it, instead of it being a big problem. But that's just my personal take. BSP was kind of a bad issue, but BSP initial, it's just BSP in general. So the third option is the reintroduction in Scarlet and Violet, or technically reintroduction in Sword and Shield, I guess, of TMs that are breakable. I mean, Sword and Shield had some unbreakable TMs, and TRs are breakable. The whole TM-TR thing, I think that was, acceptable, because, the TMs, which are infinite, all contain moves nobody really wants, and but they're still a good option. And TRs were breakable, all contain all the good moves. But for Scarlet and Violet, they went back to every TM is breakable. And I think didn't BDSP had that too, but nobody cared BDSP. And you had to get Pokemon drops so you craft TMs. So some people didn't like that was OP before. But anyway, those are the three original options. Now I added a couple more options, which I feel was a bit more of the problem. With Pokemon. And now, let's go start with the actual poll. Now, believe it or not, none of these three were the top pick on this poll. Now, the one that I expected to be the top pick ended up being top pick. So let's go see what they are. So, here is the poll. Option 4, which I put, was the removal of an established feature, meaning if some sort of feature, some sort of battle gimmick or some sort of really cool thing that was in one game, continued on in another game, and even continued on a different generation, but then removed, I counted that here. But apparently people didn't mind it as much as Dexit itself, which is fine, acceptable. Like, I mean, yes, some people think that Megas were probably the problem. Some people say Z moves were a bit of a problem. Some people Dynamax was a problem, and I kind of agree with the latter part. Dynamax was a problem, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, granted, I miss Rotation Battle, but if it's never going to come back until probably a Gen 6 remake, if they're ever going to do it, cool. But for me, I think the problem with Pokemon, the root of the problem, the issues causing with all of these, well, none of these are affected by the big issue, are the yearly releases. Ever since X and Y, Pokemon has had yearly releases. So instead of having, it comes out in Japan first, wait a few months for it to get localized, and then maybe during that time, maybe if there's some changes or fixes that need to be done for the international version, then they do the fixes on the international version, maybe fix the Japanese version, later. But it very clearly shows that because the yearly release and video games in general are being more and more expensive to make. That is a hard fact. Like, in general, video games are being more expensive to make. Doesn't have so much graphics are necessary, all sorts of crazy additions and stuff. The giant open worlds that are filled with absolute nothing. It just works. But it just absolute, and of course with Pokemon themselves, they are well known. Game Freak's well known for badly optimizing their games ever since the beginning. So and since all the badly optimizing their games, and then there's just such problems after problems, and then Game Freak, even the Pokemon Company or Game Freak keep reusing assets because they can't really do anything about it because they want to crunch for time because the Pokemon Company themselves want to push on a product every single year, even if it's not Game Freak themselves. Make the main game, and then a year later, make sure that the DLC or whatever second game you have is released a year after, and after that, some other new product a year after, and then the 2 or 3 years later, or 3 or 4 years later, the next Pokemon game. Or just you make your Pokemon game, right? Pick your main game. Get ready to make the absolute next one right now, right immediately after. Even if you have to get a different team to do the third version, if there is ever going to be one. It's the time crunch. It's having to force yourself to do all sorts of development and stuff nonstop just to meet the quota of you got to do this by November of this year. Period. Even if it's shit badly, even if it's not even finished, it's gotta be done. And I feel like the root of the problem is the Pokemon Company not letting Game Freak take their time. They're not letting them cook. Here's your modern meme for you. So yeah, the Pokemon Company is just not letting Game Freak cook. Is what I'm saying. It's half baked. It's like a shiny Fido. It is it looks cute, but it's still half-baked. So a lot of people agree with me on this one, and that, not letting them cook was the root of the problem here. So now that I wanted to bring that up, so let's go see some of the comments. So this is unexpected. So anyway, let's go search by top. Let's see if. Let's see here. Yeah, I haven't read these. The only return of the root of most of the problems, and this person agrees with me. And 187 upvotes. These are the root of the problems. I didn't read this comment, and this person agreed. The updates are rushed. Yep. The one Pokemon Day, this is a recent one, causing a save corruption glitch. Yep. And believe it or not mistaken, to this day, they have not fixed it yet. I think they have announced updates, but didn't mention this. But I also heard that this specific save corrupting glitch is super rare. I think it's 0.05%. was it 0.5% of players having this problem, and no one knows like what's really causing the problem. Is it the update causing the problem? Is the Go connection the problem, or what? Yeah, and then then this, and then this was what they want. What Pokemon has said they're going to update this part. They're going to release Walking with Iron Leaves, and to fix the bad egg glitch. Okay, I don't know what happened here. I don't know what's going on here. Like, okay, what's going on here? All the new Pokemon coming out make the existing ones that feel less special. Honestly, I think it's the other way around. It could be. I think it's on the other way around. I think like the more new Pokemon that look like old Pokemon makes the newer Pokemon less special. To be honest. So if they have this poor quality control because you don't need to have because they'll stay by the games even if they're trash. I mean, you're minus 29. I get kind of right. But yeah, I think it is the yearly release. Yeah, you can't create decent games with that method. You still get. Oh yeah, it was just like FIFA, COD, Assassin's Creed, anything Bethesda makes. Lol. Because yeah, the thing is like even you have bad quality control. If you rushing a game even with quality control does not make a good game. I mean, everyone will still remember the infamous quote from Miyamoto to a rushed game is always bad. And look what keeps happening. Even in Nintendo. Like, with all the recent Mario Sports games, they just look unfinished. Dexter removes statues as a result of your releases. Not really. I feel like this are actually different things. These three tied together is the answer. Honestly, okay, so here's my opinion of this. This was clearly planned. The Dexter and statue, this part was clearly planned ahead of time. This was clearly planned ahead of time. Because people say, oh, the Dexter kind of needed to happen anyway, even back before the yearly releases were a thing. Because the thing is, like, if they're going to do yearly releases, then that means that the part might as well just reuse everything, even if it just wouldn't work. So that means that Dexter would probably... If Dexter was a result of yearly releases, that kind of doesn't make any sense. I feel like yearly releases wants you to make this as fast as possible. It would probably be harder to just, remove the established formula and stuff. So it makes the Dexter harder to do. So I feel like yearly releases are a result of more like game optimization, stabilization, the graphics in general. I think that would be as part of yearly releases, but not Dexter. I think Dexter was clearly planned. It's good. That was clearly planned ahead of time. What is this minus 20 upvote says? I might be the only one who thinks that Dexter has some potential implemented smartly. I think you know what? I kind of agree with this because see the thing is we have had a lot of Pokemon that have just been completely dominating competitive. Like Incineroar, we had Landorus T. It's the point that I don't like Landorus T anymore because I keep seeing it and Incineroar in VGC. Even I don't even play VGC. I think Goldango's going to be like that too. And Great Tusk. Because I just say Great Tusk is like the new Landorus. Yeah. The problem with, this, if it's smartly, the problem is that a lot of the Pokemon that would need to be smartly removed are legendaries and starter Pokemon, which really can't be removed. They kind of needed to be in here. That's the problem. The problem is that you need to permanently remove some legendary and starters, or at the very least, what they did with Scarlet and Violet, rebalance Intimidate specifically, balance out Intimidate. I don't know how well Intimidate itself has been nerfed, because a lot more things are Intimidate proof, but it doesn't really stop Intimidate itself. Because I say if Landorus or Incineroar come back with Intimidate, then it probably will still be an issue. I mean, granted, they removed some moves. I think I think the move of some moves were kind of a good idea, but yeah. But I feel like Scar and Vi, they kind of overdid it with the overpowered Pokemon, to be honest. Okay, yeah. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I don't know why this is like, minus 24. Like, this is the right opinion. That deck stick was clearly planned ahead of time. So let's see here. What's this? If anyone doesn't mind the XP sharing, yeah, I kind of don't mind it now, mostly because like the game's been evolving, has been balancing around it, so it's kind of no longer a problem. The problem really is the like players are being smarter. So like people have been beating Pokemon games, even the older ones, solo with unevolved Pokemon. It's not the XP sharing's fault. It's the fact that the players are getting smarter, and like the in-game opponents aren't. But yeah, the villain plotlines suck now. Honestly, the villain's plotlines sometimes aren't even good to begin with, like, or haven't been implemented that well. I think the best one was like Team Plasma, the first one, and even the second one to some extent. There really isn't any good villain story. I mean, there have been good villains, but not good villain stories. Like Rainbow Rocket was probably peak. I think like recent villain plotlines peaked at Rainbow Rocket, but honestly, like with Scarlet Violet didn't need to be. I feel like Scarlet Violet is a Pokemon game that didn't need a villain, because I feel like Scarlet Violet is fine without him. But let's see here. Huge disappointment with Skull. Team Skull was goated. Team Skull was goats. Like, the fact that Team Skull was, like, a bunch of doofuses doing doofus stuff, like, and just not taking themselves seriously was probably the best decision they've made. Considering we had a lot of villains that are just overly serious about doing whatever nonsense they're doing, whatever legendary that is involved. But Team Skull just being silly, I feel like, was the best call. But Team Yell just basically just doing, like, Team Skull, but, like, slightly more serious. Slightly more serious? I don't know. I'm not really sure. Why didn't you break the break OTMs? Crafting, yeah. Dex has made a prolonged game since kind of got complete or kind of finished. Honestly, Dex kind of has nothing to do with this. I feel like there's a lot of other factors that make things unfinished. The thing is, this is more yearly releases that make one unfinished, not Dex itself. Dex was planned. Fair. Whatever. Okay, so I think I'm probably not gonna look at the rest of the comments here. They're just like a lot of the same, things. They're kind of like, and we're probably going to like single digit stuff. So honestly, I think we're done here. But you get the idea that yeah, there are lots of problems with Pokemon nowadays. And yes, I do think that Sword and Shield base game was fine. Not great, mind you. There are a lot of good Pokemon games. And I still rate Scarlet and Violet exactly the same as Sword and Shield base. Will the DLC of Scarlet and Violet fix anything? Doubt. But, yeah. What is known is that the Scarlet and Violet, like the recent Pokemon, objectively, I'm saying that like, objectively, have gone downhill since Oraz. They have gone downhill since Oraz specifically. I think Let's Go's fine. I think Let's Go and Arceus are the exceptions. I feel like Arceus, like being basically the inverse of Colosseum, is the best move they made. But like it clearly shows that it's better to be way more focused on one thing for Pokemon than to do what they've been doing since Sun and Moon. So I think that's pretty much it. Like I feel like if they're going to make a more battle focused game, I feel like just instead of making something like Scarlet and Violet, making a big open world game, they probably need to just make a smaller game. Like at this point, I think like a Let's Go or Revisit the Johto probably the best case scenario to just like revitalize Pokemon. But who knows? Maybe like we could actually get a good Johto game that's actually better than Heart Gold Soul Silver. That'd be hilarious, but we'll see about that. Anyway, see you guys later for next whatever heck, when or wherever heck I'm gonna do this.